Live.
Hello, and welcome to a debate show without an interesting name. I'm Tora McCormick. I'll be your host and moderator tonight. Joining the debate, we have Andrew Garber, who is the host of the podcast titled Atheist Roundtable, which I believe is on Atheist Analysis. Also joining the debate is Christian show host, no? Is Christian show host Max Mills. Okay. Also joining the debate is Christian show host Max Mills, who is the owner of A Debate Show Without an Interesting Name and the Facebook group titled A Debate Group Without an Interesting Name. You can find us in the links listed below. If you're listening live, you can tune in to atheistanalysis.com under current events or live events. Interesting name. I'm Tora McCormick. I'll be your host and moderator tonight. Joining the host of the podcast titled
Andrew, you have the YouTube video open and it's broadcasting so that we can all hear it a second time. You should close it. Okay. It's no
okay. Problem. Are we good?
We are good. Let's get this show on the road.
Okay. Tonight the debate will be on the topic of whether religion has had an overall negative impact on the world. And since Andrew Garber is our guest, I'm going to let him open and give him 5 minutes to state his position. You're muted. You're muted.
Hey, Andrew Garber, you're muted. You have to unmute
Terrible.
Yourself. Button.
Look at that. Look, I'm totally screwing up your show. You should never have me on ever again because I suck at
Oh, it's fine. I get it. I'm used to you atheists trying to sabotage my show.
I'm totally ruining your show. Look thing up. I'm doing it completely on purpose, too. I'm Andrew Garber. I host a podcast called Atheist Roundtable. How in the world that ever happens, given tonight's evidence, is I think that I look to things like how we have things like what do you call it, ISIS or ISIL or whatever the heck they want to call themselves. I look to things. I look to examples of children dying from faith healing from Christian Scientists. I look to a lot of the abuse that happens and the harm that's done to people and the violations of basic human rights that are done to people, or behind the veil of protection that religion affords people to be able to perpetrate these kinds of it's not that bad people don't do bad things and that good people do good. Matter of whether or not, if religion went away, that stop, because I don't think that that's the case at all. I think the problem when we include an element of religion, the thing that city is it gives protection to the people who are causing harm and the way that they're causing harm and the methods that they're using in order to cause harm. I don't want to say the maniacs that make up ISIS would not be maniacs if they were not religious. Their religion doesn't give. If they were maniacs without religion, driving golf carts. With religion, they now have tanks, and that's the difference. Maniacs with golf carts are indeed maniacs, and they will do horrific things. But the addition of religion amplifies, augments, and intensifies the kinds of harm that they do. Protection, because we have a bit of religious privilege. Religion is held in a state of reverence. It's held as something that's to be, and I think that that is how religion harms people just by being religion, just by giving that kind of a defense to the actions that people do that are bad. I'm not keeping track of time, and so I'm about to start babbling. So if I haven't used 5 minutes, let's pretend that I have, because I've already done screwed up enough of the show.
I didn't start until you still have another 2 minutes.
I'm awesome, and I can do happy dances, and that makes me. No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Max, would you like to give your opening position and statements? You have to take yourself off mute.
All right. Yeah, I absolutely would like to give my opening statements. I have a few points that I'd like to make. The first is this. Andrew seems to be kind of portraying ISIS as, being what they are as the direct result of religion, and that if they weren't religious or if religion didn't exist, it wouldn't be a thing. ISIS exists because of the historical backdrop that led to ISIS, including the Iraq War preventing Saddam from being able to do something about it, including the Arab Spring, which led to the Syrian rebels and us giving money to the Syrian rebels, all the way back to not just when the early Arabs conquered the region, which ended up being good for the region, by the way. Not just when the Christians kind of took over that area, or when the Romans kind of there's so much historical background that to suggest that without religion things would be better, or that ISIS would have golf carts instead of tanks, to me is ridiculous. ISIS is there because of historical and political reasons. Islam did not magically create tanks. The politics surrounding the region, including our need for oil, including the again the Arab Spring and all the other things that I just mentioned, is what ended up giving them tanks. We gave them tanks because we wanted them to fight off the Syrian dictators, right? Not because we are a Muslim government who wanted Muslim extremists. I think that is ridiculous. I think in general connecting historical events and to religion in a way that says this happened because of religion and it wouldn't have happened without religion. I'm sure it would have happened differently without religion, but I think in general religion has been so closely entwined with mankind's history that it's ridiculous to say that anyone can say that it'd be better or worse without religion. I mean, we literally have no time in documented history when religion did not have a huge, kind of impact and influence on the way that humans did things. And I think in general that's just a very flawed sense of reasoning. I also think listing a handful of things that religion has done or that religious people have done that has had a negative impact in the world isn't sufficient to say that religion itself has had a negative impact, because I could easily list positive things that have been done. The Catholic Church, which I am not a big fan of the Catholic Church, I'm a Protestant, but the Catholic Church is one of the leaders in fighting AIDS today, in spite of some of the criticisms that we could level against the Catholic Church, which are plentiful. There are goods and there are bads, and anecdotes either way doesn't really impact the discussion. That's how I feel.
Okay. It sounds like you're done with the intro, which would mean we're moving on to the open discussion.
That's true.
Before you guys start, I don't know if anyone missed it. If anyone's listening along live, feel free to join us. And you can comment in live chat if you go to atheistanalysis.com at current events, or I think it might be live events. You can actually go on and comment to the debaters while we're debating. So now we are at open floor. Andrew?
Okay, so look, ISIS is an easy target. It's an easy topic because it's relevant in the news today. It's something that's happening that we can talk about because everybody knows what the heck ISIS is. When I say that ISIS is fueled by, I'm taking ISIS at their word. I'm not looking into the past to find out what's happening. I'm asking, And if I ask ISIS why ISIS does what ISIS does, ISIS tells me because Islam. You know, that's the reason that I say that Islam is why ISIS does the things that they do, because ISIS says that Islam is the reason that they do
So you're
the things that
taking
they do.
the word.
They don't turn to the political history. They don't turn to the stuff that you mentioned. And I'm not saying that that is irrelevant. I'm not saying that that's not probably even more accurate. I'm saying that that's not what the group said.
Okay.
To say that, shouldn't we take that into consideration as to why they do?
In general, I think that historical fact matters more than the word of a bunch of uneducated desert militants. I agree.
If I say that I'm going to kick you in the nuts because you have a beard, but I'm really going to kick you in the nuts, what I
Then you're
say
really kicking me in the nuts because I wear glasses, because that's what you just said. It's a part of the premise. Like, if you're kicking me in because I'm wearing glasses, then you'd be kicking me whether I had a beard or not, no matter what you say. Right? That's what it means.
But my point is, how do you know?
Huh? Say that again?
Point is, how do you know, and are your nuts still not kicked? So even if I am a wacky, crazy, wackadoo person, and I'm lying to you as to why I'm kicking you in the nuts, there's still the issue of nuts.
Yeah, but here's your argument. All right, let's just kind of use your analogy here. Your argument is that beards are bad. You're using this example to prove beards are bad. But your actual example is that you're kicking me because of glasses, and that beards have nothing to do with it, and that you'd presumably be kicking me whether I had a beard or not, which means it's not really an argument against beards. It's, I mean, if anything, an argument against glasses, but we can't argue against historical backdrops. So I guess I don't really see how that analogy helps your point. It seems more like it helps mine. Okay. Ow, kitty.
That's the point, because at what? Okay, here. Let me ask this. At what point do you have to take me at my word that I'm doing what I say I'm doing for the reason I'm stating I'm doing it?
If I have reason to believe that there are other reasons you're doing it, then I would believe those reasons. I also think, like, here's what I think, is you're pointing out, and I think this is true, that there are bad people in the world who do bad things, and they use religion as a shield or a justification, and I think that's true. I don't think it's the only purpose of religion, and I don't think it makes religion the cause. I think people using religion as a shield, like, I feel like the only way we can justify that as being sufficient reason to believe that it must necessarily be the cause, especially with all of the counter evidence that there are historical reasons why this is occurring. I mean, to me, like, now we're taking the word of liars over historical fact. That just, it's weird. Excuse me.
Well, I'm just still a little bit confused. So, tell me again what kind of evidence I need to have to reason my way around the A is the reason you do what you do is not actually the reason you do what you do?
I'm confused. You agreed with me, in fact, that it was more accurate to say that there were historical reasons that this was taking place, rather than that religion spontaneously birthed it because religion is evil. And now you seem to be questioning the idea that there could be reasons behind militant action other than the militant actions, other than the militant actors' rallying cries. Like, of course, like, Hitler. He showed up. He made a bunch of claims about, German nationalism, Christianity, blah, blah, blah. But the real reason was the historical backdrop, what happened in World War I and how it ended with the Treaty of Versailles, which also had a historical backdrop. And if you go back and back and back, like, there are reasons these things happened. Propaganda from the leaders and propaganda from the people doing the things is not, like, the ultimate standard of historical knowledge. That's ridiculous, especially when we have other historical knowledge. We know why ISIS happened. They are killing other Muslims. There are other Muslims that think they are wrong. Al-Qaeda issued a warning to ISIS saying they were being too militant. Like, there are reasons that have nothing to do with religion. Or rather, there are reasons other than religion for why these things are happening. There are historical and political reasons. And without religion, we have no idea what it would look like. We have no idea what the world today would look like. We have no idea whether things would be better or worse. We have no idea whether ISIS would have golf carts instead or planes. We don't know. But we certainly can't say that because they are rallying themselves in the name of religion, therefore religion must be the only reason this is happening, and religion must be, overall a negative impact. And again, we're focusing on an anecdote, which is why I think these debates over whether or not religion is a positive or negative influence are ultimately a little bit futile, because it's basically a battle of the anecdotes, with no one really knowing, because it's been so closely entwined with human history.
I take your point on anecdotes, but this touches this broader topic. This touches on the broader topic of people hiding behind faith. That the only reason that ISIS was able to really form a rallying cry, the only reason that their rallying cry is as potent as it is because it carries religious overtones. You wouldn't use a rallying cry that was ineffective. You wouldn't use a rallying cry that didn't resonate with somebody. And the reason that it resonates with somebody is because it has the power of religion. It's calling upon people's religious ideals. This is how religion hurts
Humans.
Way. And I don't think you disagree with me.
I do disagree, because here's what I would say is humans have a tribalistic instinct. We mentally divide people up into these little categories, and we declare that our category is better than other people's. This makes sense as an evolutionary response, because it makes sense that people who viewed their tribe as good and other tribes as bad would survive better because they would help their tribe. And throughout history, with or without religion, we've carved up all these, divisions. We've carved up racial divisions, cultural divisions, income divisions. We've carved up divisions based on family values or tradition or nationalism. And I think the idea that without one single individual excuse to divide ourselves, we wouldn't have any more rallying cries, or that our rallying cries wouldn't be as effective, is simply not true. We have effectively rallied people behind all kinds of causes, mostly which included religion, but very few of which only included religion. And I think that if religion was gone, people would still do the same things for the same reasons, and they would rally behind something else. I mean, I don't know how different things would be, but I think people are fundamentally the same with or without religion. And I think one of the things that is most fundamental to one of the negative aspects of humankind is our tribalistic behavior. And I don't think that's magically going to change with the removal of religion. Unless, yeah.
There was an article that was posted just today, and it speaks to exactly what you're just talking about now. There are a whole lot of reasons why people segregate themselves into different wacky fascist ideological nationalism being one of them, reasons being another one. The thing is that the number one reason for themselves into these groups is religion. That's the thing. Okay, it's not national identity. It's not political identity. It's religion. Religion.
You are not legitimately suggesting that all tribalistic and divisive behavior in mankind is the direct result of religion. I don't know, it sounds like what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is that you're right when you say that people separate themselves into groups. Why do people separate themselves into groups? What groups are those? When it comes to separating people into groups, and when it comes to finding yourself in a group that's diametrically opposed to another group, we don't find that the number one reason that that happens is nationalism. We don't find political ideology. We find, according to, not me, good grief, not me, we find, according to an article written by a guy smarter than me on Pathos today, that the number one cause is religion, and that this has been a trend that's been moving for a while now. I referred you to a guy named Ryan Bell, who's doing A Year Without God, whose year is coming up here to an end in December. And Ryan Bell is actually the person who shared this article on Facebook today. That's how I know about it. So my point is that humans indeed always have separated themselves into groups. And we always do find that there are groups of people who really don't like other groups of people. But when we talk about who really doesn't like people, we're talking about religious groups.
Okay, here's what I have to say. I have a few things to say about that. The first thing is this guy on Pathos needs to learn that correlation and causation are not the same. More divisions being religious in nature does not mean that religion is the cause of those divisions. My point is that I believe that tribalism and mankind's intrinsic instinct towards division is what causes those divisions. The second point is that yeah, just because it's the most common division doesn't mean people wouldn't still use the same divisions without religion. But most importantly, if you look at most of the cultures that divide based on religion, they aren't actually dividing solely on religion. It's kind of a nationalism-religion mishmash. For example, America considers itself the Christian nation. There are billions of Christians outside of America. There are other countries who are like, at their roots, like Christian theocratic, like the United Kingdom, and there are like, there's Italy, which has, the Vatican, and although it's technically another state, but you feel me, you know what I mean? And like, it becomes this American conservatism is the only true religion, which is kind of just another form of nationalism, and it becomes this big mishmash rather than actual true religion. And while I would like to see what some guy on Pathos has to say in terms of raw numbers, what I suspect you'll find is that more often than not, most divisions include religion, but are not just religion. Does that make sense? And that if you removed religion, the American people would still think they were exceptional, and I personally agree, because America. The American people would still divide themselves on that basis, as would the French people, as would the German people, as would the English people. This is what humans do. It's what we've always done. It's what we did before Christianity existed. It's what, like, every recorded instance of this sort of thing in human history has discovered this. And I think it's just absurd to say that this fundamental aspect of human nature that we have found everywhere would go away if religion did.
What do you think, how do you think two groups of people might be able to resolve differences when they come together?
I think.
Let me show you where I'm going.
Please.
With this. If we have two different political ideas, that we should all get universal health care, and I think that universal health care is just a dumb, stupid idea, we can have an exchange of ideas of what universal health benefit people, how it might not benefit people, and we can discuss this in a civilized kind of discourse like we're doing now. But when we come to ideas of faith, where evidence isn't the cornerstone of things of faith, how do you resolve those kinds of conflicts? Generally, we resolve them with violence. That's the problem. How do you resolve problems of politics, of economics?
I got
You don't have to. When it comes to whose God has and whose other God, a way of resolving that. Except with
astonishingly few Muslims in my life. You'd be surprised. Less than 10. and somehow still manage to dialogue with them. I think this is kind of a strange fallback. It seems to me that even in real life, even if we're talking about something completely unrelated to religion, maybe we're philosophers discussing ethics, etc., it's anything, maybe we're talking politics, you will eventually reach a point with other people where even if your logic is the same, and even if your views are internally consistent, your premises are different. Your fundamental worldviews are different. And when politicians, reach that point, they don't get out spears and kill each other. Well, a lot of times they do, but that's not the only method. They could just agree to disagree. When ethical philosophers reach this kind of conundrum, they don't have to kill each other. They can just agree to disagree. That's what people, rational human beings, do when they reach these situations where their premises are so different that they can't reach the same conclusion. And I think to suggest that because different religions accept different premises, that they have no way to exist in the world without killing each other, just strikes me as really, really weird. And I also think it isn't reflective of the actual reality that you see, because I think most people, whether they're religious or not, are pretty good people who aren't interested in killing anybody. And I also think, this feels like.
I think most people, when they're religious, don't end up meeting a whole lot of people who are outside of their religious circle.
Okay, well, I don't know about that. I've met quite a few people outside of my religious circle, and I have yet to kill more than a handful of them at any given sitting. I think it is. I think it's ridiculous. Again, I gave a list of other examples of other scenarios in which humans can have different premises and still somehow manage to exist in the universe together without killing each other. It's strange to me.
My point.
Huh? Yeah, we can. Okay, so if your point is that people can exist together without killing each other, even when their fundamental, unprovable premises are different, then I don't see how your faith point stands.
My point have fundamentally different premises, except when it comes to religion. They can come to a civil discourse. When it comes to religion, however, because religion is so deeply held by people, because it's something that if you attacked a person or some other silly thing, that's where we get this cross from civil discourse into violence. We don't, and the is that we don't have a way of arguing through facts. We don't have a way of arguing through philosophy. We don't have a way of arguing through logic. We don't have a way of doing any of that when it comes to religion. All we have is my faith-based claim, and we can't get to a different faith.
But here's my point.
Evidence
is that's objectively not true. On this very channel, and specifically on this show, we have discussions discussing a religion and whether or not it is internally consistent and logically valid all the time. I agree that a lot of times you reach a point where the person's fundamental premises, which can't be proven or disproven, can disagree with your fundamental premises, which can't be disproven or proven. But I also think that's true in a wide variety of situations. I think it's true in political philosophy, where you'll have, like, a libertarian saying that ultimately, a lack of restrictions is fundamentally the ideal system, and that's not something that he can prove. It's a fundamental difference in premises. Meanwhile, you have, a socialist saying, like, one of our most important things is that we make sure that everyone is cared for and gets, an equal amount of treatment, that we're sharing the load. And there's no way he can prove that either, right? That's also an unproven premise. And when people's unproven premises contradict each other, they don't rampage through the streets with an axe chopping heads off unless they're nut jobs, right? We agree to disagree, and we somehow manage to exist. And that's also clearly true here. And I think
I don't understand. I don't understand why, when I say that religious discussion, that differences in religion are different than differences in politics, that you illustrate the way that differences in religion are not like differences in politics.
Explain to me how I did that.
Because that,
Okay, explain to me how I did that. Because my view.
So
Okay.
again, I'm saying that if we have a difference in a political idea, that conversation is going to be different, but different than a conversation about religious ideas. If I'm using are you trying to say that political ideas are also based in
Yes,
faith? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, I am saying that I'm not using the word faith. I'm using the word unproven premises. And yes, I am arguing that there are.
I'm using the word faith.
I'm arguing that there are political positions as well as religious positions that are founded on unproven premises. And I think that just because they're founded on unproven premises doesn't mean they can't be logically valid or logically internally consistent. I'm arguing that we can still disagree by attacking the logical validity or internal consistency. And then ultimately, if we agree that we're all, internally consistent and the only place we disagree is on our faith or unproven premises, then we can just agree to disagree instead of trying to kill each other. That seems to me like an ordinary way for people to behave, and I think that it is an option, and I definitely don't think the only option is to start killing each other.
I don't see how political ideas are based on faith.
You think that every single premise for every single political ideology is 100% scientifically provable. That's what your claim is. Is that what you're saying? Or are you agreeing that there are some that are founded on unproven premises?
What?
Okay, a premise is a logical, we accept this, therefore this, right? So if you have a libertarian, it is a premise for, many libertarians that there is a certain kind of autonomy or liberty that is necessary, that takes priority over things like whether or not we have starving people or poor people. Does that make sense? And then on the other hand, you have a socialist. And his premise is that it's okay, to take away some of the liberties that libertarians think are important as long as we don't have, people who are, poor in the same sense. And I think those are premises. These people are walking in with a certain set of values or priorities. And we can attack their logical consistency. We can attack the way they manifest in the real world, but we can't prove or disprove those premises themselves. And if two people, a socialist and a libertarian, meet and they debate all day and they discover that their views are both totally internally consistent and totally consistent with the reality that they have observed to the extent that they can observe it, then I think that what they do is they walk away and agree to disagree. And I don't think that that scenario is any different than if I was to debate a Muslim, except the actual content of the beliefs.
Understanding this right, that you think that there isn't a way to that libertarianism is better or worse than socialism?
I am arguing that if we did prove that libertarian was better or worse than socialism, we would do so by attacking its internal consistency and whether or not it is effective in reality in the way that they say it is, not by attacking their actual subjective value judgments or their unproven premises.
If we prove that better or worse than socialism, would that not then prove that their premise was wrong?
No. I mean, maybe, but if it did, it would be through... No, actually, because the premise is a value set, and if we proved that libertarian was wrong in its internal consistency, then that might shed evidence against their premises, but what it would actually do was say that their value system was not being implemented in their actual stated ideal government system in a way that was internally consistent, which is fine. They could switch positions and change the way they think they can view the world without changing their actual subjective value judgments, right? If I was a socialist, which I'm not, and if you were a libertarian, which I don't know if you are or not, and I said, socialism is better because it's wrong to let poor people be poor when we could tax, you would fundamentally disagree with that. Not because it's got a logical issue, but because it is a basic premise statement that you would disagree with. You would say it is better for people to have liberty than for people to not be poor. And that is a value judgment. It's a prioritization. It's subjective.
Again, if we were to show that libertarianism was better or worse than socialism, would that not then prove my premise as a libertarian to be right or wrong?
I believe my answer was that it would not prove your subjective value judgment to be wrong. It would just prove that your political views were contradictory. How would it? I explained how it would not in like 10 minutes, so I'm interested in how you...
If my premise, conclusion, and we show that the conclusion is wrong.
If your premise...
Max, let him finish his question.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Andrew. What is the question?
If I start with premise, and then you can show me that my conclusion is wrong, why didn't something go wrong with my premise?
Okay, that's a good question. The answer is this. For the most part, political ideologies are not sound logical proofs that accept premises and draw conclusions. They are things that accept premises and then try and theorize some possible solution to the problems using those premises. It is possible to say this is a bad solution to the problems, or this is not internally consistent, or this would not work, without actually disproving the subjective value judgments made by the libertarian in this case.
Okay, I'm moving on. I have no idea what the hell you just said.
It sounds like we're stuck on more...
Any bit of sense to me. Spent way too much damn time on that.
I agree. Do you have another point?
That's just crazy.
Cool.
So let's go on.
Can we move? We've really been focusing on how religion has affected the world very recently, within recent time, within the last 100 years. The question of the debate is whether it has had an overall impact, negative impact on the world. And so I'm curious as to both of your thoughts further than the last century, back to, well, as far as I know, religion and theism in general and supernatural beliefs is something that's been around pretty much since the dawn of time. And so over that course of time, what do you think has the influence of religion been negative or positive over that large span of time?
Am I going first again? Anytime you anything other than good, solid evidence, you are looking at trouble. Anytime that you have an idea that can't be founded on world, bad things are ahead in your way. There are witch hunters that aren't a new thing. These witch hunters have been around for forever. And we harm children, women, of people without penises.
Children have penises. Sorry, some of them at least have.
People who are disadvantaged. We ostracize them, and we end up hanging them, torturing them, because of the devil, that they are possessed by demons, that they have brought curses upon us, that they are something. We have ancient mystical arts of what is this? Acupuncture and chiropractic and a whole bunch of other weird non-real like homeopathy or cupping and I'm not talking about good cupping, I'm talking about wacky woo cupping. We have people like Deepak Chopra, for crying out loud, and Dr. Oz. I guess they're less than 100 years old. But, dude, the people selling snake oil and woo-woo have been doing so for centuries. I think maybe we can forgive people 100 years ago who were practicing the snake oil because we didn't have the good science to fall back on that we have today. Someone for that acupuncture worked, or that getting a foot massage would cure your headache. Maybe it would. I think we can forgive people who didn't have the medicine to back it up for making these mistakes. But today, when people forego real medical attention to replace it with superstitious nonsense, kills people, and it who are disenfranchised to begin with, and who hold religious ideals that their God can work miracles. And it's a travesty every time when it happens.
Okay, cool. So
I think I'm actually more I mean, that's still more modern influences of religion. I'm talking like much further back and on a much broader spectrum. I mean, that's a really good point. I think that applies to the last 100 years that we have had evidence that a lot of Reiki doesn't work. But I mean, as far as the span of the last several hundred years, do you think that religion has had a negative impact on the world?
Can we revisit that? But I want to respond to what he just said first, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Our ethical, just as an example, like you said, the only thing we should ever adhere to is things that are scientifically provable. Our ethical and value sort of judgments are not scientifically provable, yet you're using them to defend a strict adherence only to scientific truths. Can you scientifically prove that burning children is wrong? No. It's a premise that you accept. It's part of your ethical judgment. It's not something you can prove in a lab, right? Okay. Also, with regards to like homeopathy, as far as I know, that's like home medicine stuff. I don't know if it's all bunk. Like, I mean, there are plants that are medicinal and stuff. I mean, a lot of it is bunk. It's easy to take advantage of. But I think condemning the entire label of natural medicine as BS is ridiculous. It's certainly greatly inferior to modern medicine. But I think, there's a plant here in Texas they make Novocaine out of, and if you chew on it, it makes your mouth numb. It's super cool. I'm sure it was super useful 400 years ago or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of strange. But most importantly, I think that like it's easy to point to all of these things, individuals who have been harmed by religion. There's also a lot of cases of individuals not being harmed by religion or even being saved by religion. Earlier I pointed to the fact that, again, the Catholic Church is one of the biggest sources of aid support in the world. And that's, again, coming from someone, I don't really like the Catholic Church very much, but they do that, and it's important. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of charity work comes out of the religious community. We send people overseas to build wells and all this stuff, and sometimes it does real good. You know what I mean? And like we have a lot of scientific advancement, especially, this is coming back to the question that Tura was intending to ask. Thousands of years ago, a lot of our scientific advancement came from these empires, and a lot of times the cement that held these empires together was religion, right? Like the belief often in the deity of the monarch or something, but it led people to this to unite under this banner, and this unification allowed them to maintain an empire, and inside of that empire, scientific growth, some of the earliest scientific growth was able to happen. And I think it's, I'm not going to use all of these things to claim that religion has had an overall good impact in the world, but I certainly think that rattling off a list of ways in which religion has bad in the world is, it's just a list of anecdotes. It doesn't prove anything, and which means it kind of contradicts your claim that you shouldn't base anything on anything that you can't prove scientifically. like ethics. Go ahead. Sorry if I talk too long.
Just to clear up what the heck homeopathy is, because you don't
I don't
know,
know.
so that
Yeah.
so that you, so
Thank you.
that you, homeopathy is a few thousand-year-old idea that like cures like. That's what the homo in homeopathy means. That like cures like. So if you can't sleep, for example, what we're going to give you is caffeine, okay, in order for you to be able to go to sleep. But we're going to give it to you in a really, 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 really small dose. Okay.
Oh, I thought homeopathy was just a general term for like natural medicine. I'm sorry. It's in
No,
case it isn't obvious, I don't spend a lot of time looking up like
no.
stupid things.
I'm interested in hearing Andrew's idea of homeopathy.
So dilute the caffeine down so that when you take this pill, we've diluted it past the point of something where there's not even a molecule. Okay. So that's homeopathy. Yours like, and that we're going to dilute it to the point where there isn't even any active ingredient left. There are plenty of videos on YouTube where people will take an entire bottle of homeopathic sleeping pills, because there isn't any active ingredient in an entire bottle of pills. It is literally snake oil, and it's founded on this idea that water has memory. It's going to remember the caffeine that was in that it's going to hold a memory of a long lost drop of onion juice and somehow forget all the poo it's had in it. Okay, that's why it's stupid. That's why it doesn't work. And you can buy it. That's how it hurt. That's how it hurts people.
I was talking
Just
to my.
to clarify, do you believe that homeopathy is something that is a religious thing?
I don't see how it works without some idea of supernaturalism. I don't see how you come to the idea that homeopathy is a real thing without the idea that water is supernatural and can hold the memory of stuff that it had in it and forget all the bad stuff it had in it. I don't see how that's not a supernatural claim.
It looks like the guy who came up with it was a German physician.
Yes.
I'm not convinced. I mean, I'm not convinced there was any like explicit religious motivation. But I also think, a belief in the supernatural is not necessarily religion. Like, you could be an atheist and believe in ghosts or whatever. Like, that's not like part of the. You can also be an atheist and be a religious, so that's not a very good example. But I feel like we're getting off track. But I do want to say one more thing, which is that my brother is like this health nut, and we go to like these workout stores, and like sometimes like half of the products are just like BS with a pretty label. So if you're watching this, just do your research. Let's refocus. Andrew, what is your response to some of the rebuttals that I gave the last time that we were on topic, whenever that was?
That don't prove anything. They're just a list.
Sure.
So when it comes to why religion is harmful, first of all, that we can look to a zillion examples of how religion can be harmful. And while they may all be anecdotes, they all involve some form of supernaturalism. They all involve some kind of faith claim. And that faith claim gave a smokescreen to how that harm was inflicted. It gave some kind of shield to the person that was inflicting that pain, and that's bad. When we shield from bad things, that's bad. We shouldn't shield people from bad things. That's
okay. I agree, and I'm excited to see your scientific, peer-reviewed study proving that that's bad. But while I'm waiting, I just want to point out that yes, you can find a zillion examples of ways in which religion has had a negative impact on people's lives. You could also find a zillion examples of ways in which religion has had a positive impact on people's lives. And unless we can find some way to even out the scales or find some fundamental aspect of religion that is more likely to manifest itself negatively or positively, unless we can prove so, it seems really difficult to claim, for me, that it's got an overall negative impact.
Yeah, well, I think I've been trying that separates the good that religion does and the bad that religion does. I've hinted toward it a couple of times. It's faith. It's supernaturalism. That's the thing that separates it. When we go to build wells to help people who need, we don't do that because we believe that there are magical fairies in the water that are going to come out and then bless all the people of the village. We do it because we know people are thirsty and that water is necessary for life. That's because, that's the difference.
But some people do it.
We do it.
Sorry.
When religion does good things, good thing that religion does that can't be done with the veil of religion. And if we take away the veil of religion, we still have really good things that suddenly become better. When we take away religion from the good things that religion does, the good things become better. Because even if, and this is something that I mentioned the last time that I talked about this with Charlie, because and he does good things, and he mentioned those good things, and I was proud of Charlie for doing all of those good things, and I told him so.
He loves Charlie.
But what I told him was, when you do those good things, Charlie admitted that he felt obligated to do those things because his God told him to do those good things. And I told Charlie that when I see you do those good things, I don't see a God telling you to do those good things, and that makes your actions better. More altruism. That means you have more good nature because you don't just have to obey.
Okay.
And be good. That's what drives you.
One, it seems to me that, like, you're making a very weird differentiation here, because on the one hand, it is absolutely true that people could deprive their child of medicine without a belief in the supernatural. It would be dumb, but most people think it's dumb anyway. I think it's dumb anyway. I think, like, even among religious people, that is a strange thing that's frowned upon and isn't very well shielded by religion. I think it could happen either way. So when you say it could happen, people still could go dig wells, that's true. But it's also true that a lot of people are motivated to dig wells by their religious organizations that they're part of or by their religion itself. Religion does drive people to be charitable. A lot of people who are charitable can attribute it directly to religion. A lot of religious groups are raising money